everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up. March Madness has begun, and we've even had upsets today. Oh my goodness gracious! And I have a crew to talk with me tonight. Okay, let's introduce the crew. I'm going to start with my co-host, Smoking Jeremy B.
Hello, Candy. Happy to be here. Let's talk some sports.
Sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. Mr. George Eichhorn, long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I saw you, Candy.
Yes, you were on with
Yeah,
us
we had a little
earlier.
bit of we had fun on the last show, but good to be back.
We did. Keep it up, Jeremy B. And then we have Mr. Ralph Williams. How are you, Ralph?
I'm good, Aunt Candy. Thank you, and all the panel. Thank you.
You're welcome. And our special guest tonight, Mr. Will Vogel. How are you, Will?
Doing great. March Madness is in the air. One of the best times of the year. And I'm glad to be back.
Awesome. So, Will, since you are our special guest, tell us about a little recap of today. Maybe, a upset that you didn't see coming.
Well, the upset that I didn't see coming today was just happened. Oakland's going to beat Kentucky. And I told my friend, I said, do you know where the school is? He's like, duh, it's in California. I said, no, this Oakland is in Michigan. So props to them beating a blue blood in Kentucky, a 14 seed beating a 3 seed. Yes, it's not the same feeling as a 16 beating a 1, but you know what? Beating a blue blood in the March Madness in the round of 64, that always feels good, especially when you're the lower seed. Some other things that I really like that happened today. Oregon player Jermaine Couisnard scored 40 points. That was huge. He propelled them to beat South Carolina. Illinois player Marcus Domask had a triple-double. I think it's like the 10th triple-double in March Madness history, something like that I read. And then lastly, Michigan State coach Tom Izzo won his 20th first-round game. So a lot of history to be made in one night of March Madness, and we still have today to still continue. We have tomorrow, we have Saturday, Sunday, and we have the rest of the tournament. So we may have even bigger storylines that happen. So yes, that's what caught my eye.
Mr. Ralph, what's caught your eye?
Well, Duquesne beat BYU today. Those of you who don't know, Duquesne is from the Pittsburgh area here, right down the street from where the NCAA is having their tournament from PPG Paints Arena. And so, they won today, and then Oakland just beat Kentucky. And John Calipari is the head coach of Kentucky. He's from Pittsburgh here. It seems like every time he comes to Pittsburgh, he loses. About 5-6 years ago, he lost to Robert Morris in the NIT at Robert Morris. So it seems like every time he comes back to town, he has bad luck. So but that's what caught my eye today. And it's Oakland beating Kentucky today or just now. Wow, and Virginia getting practically almost blown out the other night there or whatever, and by Colorado State. That has to be humiliating, and I'm waiting to see what NC State's going to do tonight.
George, what's caught your eye today?
Well, obviously, it's a great day to be a fan of two schools in the state of Michigan. And Michigan State University Spartans won the early game, 12-15. And now prime time, the Oakland Grizzlies defeating number 3 Kentucky. Unbelievable. I just did not see that coming. But I tell you what, they got a coach, Greg Kampe, who is all business. The guy's been there 40 years. 40 years.
Wow.
And to answer your friend's question, Will, no, it's not Oakland, California. They're named after the city. Well, we actually have a city called Oakland in Oakland County. but the Oakland University, of course, is in a city called Rochester, and so that's a very it's a Division I program, but it's taken them a hell of a long time to get this opportunity to knock off a number 3 seed. So I'll tell you what, Candy, like I said, between the Spartans advancing and now Oakland advancing, everybody in Michigan is just going gaga right now. So despite the fact that U of M was horrible, and it's just it's a great feeling, like Will said. The unbelievable fun we have with March Madness and this tournament is just mind-boggling, and that's my take so far on the tournament, keeping it localized here to that point of view.
Jeremy, what surprised you today?
The fact that I had to work so much, I barely saw anything. But kudos to Oakland. I'll be honest. The other team that he said got blowed out, that kind of floored me, or real close to blowed out. There really isn't a lot other than that. If you look at what's going on right now, the can you explain March Madness for the Aussie? Ooh, I just read that. March Madness is it's actually the top 68 right now, isn't it? Because of the play-in games that they did yesterday.
Yeah, it's 68.
So there's a field of 64, which started today. Yesterday was the field of 68. There's 4 at-large teams in college basketball that get a chance to play to get to the national championship in a one-and-done format. So they come in, and you get a 68 seed versus a 1 seed over here, and then you get the 67th seed versus this 1 seed, and the 65th, and so on and so forth, until you get it back down to the 64. That's how it works. And we have seen it where a 1 seed has lost in the play-in day. So to say it can't happen, it can. It just doesn't happen very often.
Didn't it happen last year?
Yeah, it was last year when it happened. That's why I mentioned it exactly. Wasn't it the 65th seed that beat the one from the Southeast region?
That I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember.
That's what I think it was the 65th seed versus the because 1 seed from each region versus the worst team just outside of their field. How horrible is that to be the guy that is the worst seed outside their field? It's nice to get the chance to play, but in all actuality, you're going, man, what shot we got?
I'll tell you I'll tell you a year about March Madness. I was in Vegas, and in 1999, and I'm standing down at this hot dog stand. They had hot dogs and French fries. And if you were a guest at the hotel, and I stayed at the Frontier, at the old Frontier at the time, if you're a guest at a hotel, you got for $5, you got a big, huge hot dog and French fries. It actually was $3 if you were if you had a room there. So I'm standing down there. I got this guy standing behind me, and he's smelled like a liquor store and a brewery. And he's standing there with $1 in his hand. And he said he lost all his money on Syracuse. That was the year all the upsets came. Wichita State, Wright State beat Syracuse. Wichita State beat Kentucky or somebody. And it was just amazing. And I saw people coming out of the sports book like somebody shot their dog, and with gloomy faces. And the guy said he lost all his money on Syracuse, and he was standing in line there to get a 99-cent fruit or shrimp cocktail because that was all he had. He had that $1, and he said he blew all his money on Syracuse. I'll never forget that one.
You know what's crazy is my brother a few years ago for Christmas gave me these March Madness tickets, and we didn't know who was playing there. We just knew it was in Charlotte. Ironically enough, one of the games I went to was when UMBC beat Virginia.
Wow.
And I met some UMBC students who gave me a UMBC t-shirt, and I still have it to this day. And it's the only time a 16 seed beat a 1 seed.
Wow.
Yeah, I do remember that. And then Jeremy, I think you might have been referring to last year, number 16, Fairleigh Dickinson, 63, number 1 Purdue, 50 last year.
Yeah, but they
Yep.
won their play-in game as well. They got there to be that seed is what I was getting at.
Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. And yours too, Will. Yours was a tremendous upset. Oh my God, I remember that 2018, number 1 Virginia going down to UMBC. Yeah,
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is the year after Virginia lost to UMBC, they turn around and win the national championship the year after they get upset.
you're right. Yes, they did. I think they beat Texas Tech, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then let's not forget, was it 3 years ago, the amazing run by Virginia Commonwealth all the way
Oh
to the
yeah.
Final Four? Wasn't that right? Didn't they go all the way to the Final Four?
VCU,
Yeah, they did.
Loyola, Chicago, bunch of Cinderella teams.
Not just
Last
Loyola.
year, FAU was in
Loyola.
the Final Four.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
FAU
San Diego
last year,
State.
yes.
And San Diego State. Nobody predicted that last year.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
let's not forget, that also was the year, it wasn't just Loyola. It wasn't the main branch of Loyola. It was Loyola Marymount,
Yep.
the one that the nun
Was that
graduated.
the one? Was that the one Patino was coaching? Or no, he's the one coaching the Loyola in New York, right?
Yeah, he was Loyola, New York.
Yeah, New York. Okay, I knew he was one of them, but I didn't know which one.
So yes, kudos to Michigan State. Kudos to Duquesne. Creighton won big over Akron. Arizona won big over Long Beach. North Carolina won big over Wagner. Illinois won pretty big over Morehead State. Oregon upset South Carolina as well, though. That was an 11 seed beating a 6 seed. And I think typically we've seen the seed that wins the most is 12-5 normally, I thought, in upsets,
Yes.
not necessarily 11-6, but I think it's normally the
so.
12-5. So, yes, Dayton won. That wasn't an upset, but that was a close game, 63-60. Oakland did squeak it out, 80-76, and Texas beat Colorado State. So the question is, there are some games tomorrow. Anyone want to predict an upset that they think will happen tomorrow?
I can't even remember who the games are tomorrow.
You
know what? I'm just going to say this. I didn't pick them in any of my brackets. Okay, I wouldn't say they're going to beat them, but I think they're going to give them a fight. I can see Vermont beating Duke because you know what? Duke had a really bad ACC tournament. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a Tar Heel and I don't like Duke. Duke had a really bad ACC tournament showing, and they lost to NC State, who eventually ended up winning it. Yes, it looks good when you lose to the eventual champion, but you know what? Why not? Vermont beating Duke, shoot, that would be big because then another blue blood would go down. So, yeah, I got Vermont beating Duke.
Well, how about Colgate? Colgate beating their 14 seed against Baylor, number 3 tomorrow. That ought to be an interesting game. And then UAB versus San Diego State. UAB might pull that, an upset off those two teams.
Mm-hmm.
I got just a small one, a mini upset. I don't really think it could qualify, but I got Texas A&M. Is that tomorrow over Nebraska?
Yes.
Yeah, and they gave Nebraska an 8 seed. They gave A&M a 9 seed. Come on, so they're pretty evenly matched. So I mean, I'm stretching things a little bit here, and I also, of course, I like FAU to beat Northwestern too, but FAU is a 8 and Northwestern is a 9. That's not an upset, but and then Candy, your Wisconsin Badgers play tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they play James Madison.
Look out, those guys. That's one of those sleeper teams too. James Madison. I did pick, Wisconsin to win though tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow night's Longwood versus Houston. That could be an upset. Charleston versus Alabama. Grambling State versus Purdue. I mean, they're all underdog teams. So we'll see what they do tomorrow. It could be upsets again.
Do you guys want
Yeah,
to
and everyone I know is picking New Mexico State over NC State, and I think NC State's going to win because I think they've won like 11 in a row, and
Yeah,
everyone's like,
they
"Oh my
have.
God, Mexico
Their
State!"
last loss was their last regular season game against Pitt. That was their last loss. I was at
So
that
give
game.
me NC State in that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm taking them.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you want the list of games for tomorrow?
Sure.
Northwestern versus FAU, Colgate versus Baylor, UAB versus San Diego State, Western Kentucky versus Marquette, Stetson versus UConn, New Mexico versus Clemson, Yale versus Auburn, Colorado versus Florida. And that's the one where I think there might be an upset because Colorado's been playing some good ball and they're a 10th seed and Florida's a 7th seed. That's not that much of an upset, but it would be considering the blue blood in the tournament that Florida has been over the years. Texas A&M and Nebraska, Vermont versus Duke, Grambling State versus Purdue, Cole Charleston versus Alabama, Longwood versus Houston University, you already said James Madison, TCU versus Utah State, and Grand Canyon versus St. Mary's, California.
Grand Canyon. That's right.
Canyon University is actually only a plus 200 to the St. Mary's minus 250. So that's actually not that bad of odds. The biggest odds against anybody winning is Longwood versus Houston. Houston is a minus 5,000 and Longwood is a plus 1,600.
Wow.
Wow.
So that means it's 160 to 1 odds, everybody.
If you're gonna bet, that's the one to bet on. That Powerball and Mega Millions, they're all would get you a boatload of money these days. Because
Oh yeah.
A $10 bet can get you 1,600.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I take that back. I scrolled up a little further. There's one worse. 2,501. The 2,500, which is 250 to 1, Grambling State over Purdue, which is a negative 10,000 to win.
Oh, jeez.
Well, hats off to Grambling State. Yeah, they won the play-in game.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
this is the furthest they've ever gone, right, Ralph? I
Yes.
don't think they ever won a first round game.
Who? Duquesne?
No,
No.
Grambling.
Grambling? No, they haven't won. No, not at all. They never won one. Neither is Duquesne. Duquesne. The last time Duquesne was in the NCAA was in 1977, and Norm Nixon was part of that team. So
Wow.
yeah, and they didn't make it past the first round.
And Stetson versus UConn gets the same odds as Grambling State versus So, there's a couple of them there.
Hey, we could see what I saw in 1999. You never know. You could be seeing.
It's an exciting time.
It is.
Especially if you're not necessarily a basketball fan, because I think a lot more people become college basketball fans during this time because a lot of people make out the brackets. A lot of people follow it. It's always interesting to see like how many brackets as we get further on this weekend, how many brackets are busted and how many actually they still have left that are good. I'll be honest with you. I mean, Wisconsin has two teams in Wisconsin and Marquette. I'm pulling for both of them. Marquette's the number 2 seed, so they're having a much better year, and they're supposed to get their star player back for the tournament. Kolek, who didn't play in the Big East tournament, for those people that were watching the Big East and saw UConn take it. UConn looked good, don't get me wrong, but they did not take it by a lot in that Big East tournament, considering Marquette's best player was not playing.
Right.
But it's always an interesting time. And Florida, we actually have 5 different teams in the tournament, which I thought was pretty impressive for a state. Yeah. Okay. So anybody else want to talk anything more about March Madness? Any last minute comments or anything like that?
I'm good.
I don't have anything.
Okay, so I'm going to bring a topic. I'm going to surprise all of you because I didn't tell any of you guys I was putting this topic on here at all. But I
Right.
thought it was very interesting. Today, the Dodgers started, and I'm gonna mispronounce his name. I know it. Yoshibu Yamamoto today made his major league debut when they played in Seoul. He made it all of one inning. He's a right-hander. He recorded 3 outs, 5 runs on 4 hits, 1 walk, and 1 hit batter in Thursdays. He's 25 years old, and he labored through 43 pitches with only 23 of them landing in the strike zone.
Wow.
What do you guys think about knowing that we've been going through spring training, that his first game, he can't even make it through the first inning in only 43 pitches? George.
Well,
Well,
I tell you what, Candy, I was really shocked to hear that. I mean, I know it was a slugfest. San Diego, winning this second game there in Korea, 15-11. But yeah, he did not look at all like the $1 million baby that the Dodgers hoped they got when they signed him. That was a big splashy signing, just like Otani was, and yeah, he looked horrible. You're right. I mean, 43 pitches and only 23 were strikes, and it wasn't just him. I mean, on the other side of the ledger, Musgrove gave up 5 runs too. He pitched 2.2 inning for San Diego as the starter, but I mean, this guy Yamamoto, he's gonna have to really go back to the drawing board, so to speak, in his next start, which, as we know, won't come until late in March when the official regular season begins. But yeah, I was surprised, Candy. I did not expect that from him today.
they gave him on the offseason a 12-year, $325 million contract. The
Wow.
deal is the largest guaranteed contract for a pitcher in MLB history.
This guy plays for the Dodgers, you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Dodgers. They give big money out to people, and I've said this many times. I've had arguments with Dodger fans and people who cover the Dodgers, whose names I'm not going to mention here, but I've had this argument with them, and I tell them every year, and I'm always right. They always fail in the playoffs, and they spend all this money, and I think this is the year that Dave Roberts might get fired if they don't make it past the first round of the playoffs.
Agree.
Will, your thoughts?
I agree with that. He may get fired if they don't make the first round of the playoffs. I'm shocked. Yes, it's definitely an adjustment going from pitching in Japan to the major leagues, but the pressure was on him. He's 25 years old. It's hard to make an impact right away, but yeah, it's disappointing to see him struggle that much in a first game. Like, I wish he pitched better, but you know who else didn't play well in that game? Otani. Otani went 1 for 5. Yes, Otani had a huge game the game before, but Otani struggled this game. But you know what? Like George said, he'll have to go back to the drawing board, figure out what pitches work for him. Maybe spend a little time after practice one day or after a game one day, just a little bit, not too long, and get better communication with you and the catcher so you can be on sync. Not saying it's the catcher's fault, just working with your catcher to see which pitches he likes, which pitches he doesn't like, which he thinks are favorable towards the pitcher. But yeah, it's disappointing, but you know what? It happens to the best of the pitchers sometimes, but yeah, it's definitely an adjustment period for sure for Yamamoto.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
All I know is when that money hit his bank account, he started singing like he was from Styx, Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto, whatever his name is, uh, because he's getting paid to fail, is what it's looking like. 23 strikes out of 43 pitches. That means 20 of them were outside the zone. One of them was a walk. We don't even know what the count was of that walk. Was it 4-0? Was it 4-1? Who cares? It's a travesty. You know, when you play that bad as a pitcher, because the pitcher sets the mood for the defense also starts to fail. You start getting what was it that they called it in the movie Major League? If you olay a ball like that again, I'm gonna make you do push-ups. Remember that?
Yep.
Mhm.
So, you know, not putting your body in front of it to make the stop so you stop the bleeding. That's what he's talking about. Don't just sit there and lay your glove and go, "Oh, it made it past me."
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's
Part of the,
all
go
part
ahead.
of that's all part of the game. It's the mental part of the game. If your pitcher stinks, your defensive mental attitude stinks.
Correct. Correct. What surprises me is he has struggled all spring training. He is posting right now an 8.38 ERA,
Ooh.
1.97 whip across 9 2/3 innings in 3 starts. Yet we gave him what kind of a contract? Come on, Dodgers.
300
Really?
million.
Are you kidding me? Come on. Oh my. And it's 12 years too. I'm like, and the breaking news was that JD Martinez agrees to a 1-year, $12 million contract with the New York Mets. The interesting part of JD Martinez's contract, obviously the deal is pending because he's pending a physical, but it will pay him $4.5 million this season and $1.5 million in deferred money from years 2034 to 2038.
Wow.
Well,
Talk about
That's almost the Bobby Bonilla contract.
I know, isn't it?
Everybody, the
Yeah.
Bobby Bonilla contract. Yeah, he's still collected.
Correct.
Uh,
But
I'd
obviously
love
it has
somebody to pay
do
me
with
$1
the
million
luxury
a year or
tax.
whatever he gets.
Yeah. It has to do with the luxury tax, and I get it, but still, really? That far away? Come on.
Well, look at
he's a
Shohei,
good DH, but he's up there in age.
but look at
Correct.
Shohei Ohtani's contract. They did the same thing, and he's not even playing right now because he just had that UC surgery and he hasn't fully recovered. Him getting that $2 million a year for 20 years. Ooh, that's $40 million. Think about it. As soon as he's done, the remainder of that $700 million contract is due. You want to talk about ruining a franchise? Imagine the luxury tax on $700 million in 1 year for a player.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is just crazy.
You know, I wanted the Tigers to give him another chance, but they wouldn't budge. They would not bring Martinez back. They're really trying hard to go with the youth movement here in Detroit. But it sure would have been nice to have a veteran presence and a bat that who knows, maybe he could win 2 to 3, 4 games for the team. I mean, I don't know. He can still hit. He can't field, but though the Tigers were not going to budge, they weren't going to bring in an elder statements, as lack of a better term, an elder citizen in JD Martinez here. They're going with the kid, Kerry Carpenter, as primary DH.
Okay, so let's switch to more of Jeremy's wheelhouse. Let's switch to a little football, and I'm going to talk about Coach Prime. Coach Prime does not visit prospects' houses. They have to come to him. He has never gone to their house. By contrast, Texas coach Steve Sarkisian has made 128 off-campus recruiting visits, and before Jim Harbaugh left Michigan, he had visited 145 different people's houses. So the question is, as a recruit, Do you want a head coach to come to you or not? Jeremy, you can start with this one.
It really depends on the situation. What if you
Okay.
are one of these kids that grew up in the poor neighborhood and your parents' health isn't that great? Do you go and rent a hotel room to have the coach visit you? Or go rent an apartment with your family for a month with a special deal, paying extra rent just to look like you have a nice livable space for a coach to visit? I think it would be better if kids did more in-campus visiting than coaches going to their houses. Just because, think about this. If you make less than $20,000 a year right now, you're in the poverty level. Your average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,750 nationwide. Your average income is $15,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your rent on average nationwide from the highest to the lowest is $1,750. That means nationwide, there's a bunch of people that can't afford a one-bedroom apartment because they're coming up $2,500 short a year. And that's putting it into perspective for those
Mhm.
of us that did come from a family that was when middle income meant something.
Correct.
And I'm
Correct.
not trying to be political about it. I'm being fiscal about it.
I agree. I agree. Jeremy, I know I'm this is behind on past topics, but I'm going to put up some comments because I really need to go to we need to address some of our people that are in the commenting on the show here. If
Oh
you could
yeah,
read them for us.
absolutely. George Mason made an insane run a few years back, economics and athletics at the same school. Go Pioneer or Grizzlies. Taking a OU already has made me in a big points lead in my bracket. Pitchers are more finicky than netminders, and this is true.
That is true.
Patty Grimes is chiming in saying, "What's up from Arizona?"
Have to acknowledge all the people in the chat room because without them, we just be talking between ourselves.
And
Right.
here's when James Burgess said, "In New York City, you can't live indoors for less than 75,000 a year."
Yeah.
I believe it.
Anybody else want to comment on coaches going to them or them going to the coaches? Okay, Mr. Will.
Yeah, I agree with Jeremy. I think it's better for the student athlete to go to the campus because then you can see the team's facilities and the field, and you get to meet potentially your future teammates and your future coaches and your future professors, and like it gets you into like feels like you are at the college, like gets you more comfortable with going to the college, leaving home, and not when you first get there and you're like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to adjust here. Yes, it's better because then you can get accommodated with meeting your future teammates and coaches and stuff. So, yes, I fully agree with Jeremy. It is better for the student athlete to go to said college to visit.
Ralph, your comments.
Well, if I'm a recruit, uh, I, there's two ways you could spin this. Will and Jeremy have a point where, it would be best for the athlete to go to the university, but also if I'm an athlete, a student athlete, I want to see the coach come and talk to me and my family. And there's things that the parents have questions they want to ask. And sometimes some of the parents can't go to the university with the child or with the recruit. Okay. So they have to stay home. So sometimes going to the home is an advantage. Okay. But there's advantages to both of them. There's advantages to going to, but I think Deion Sanders is kind of taking it out of proportion here. And that's something he would do, stay there and let people come and visit him where, other coaches I know that have gone to go to everybody's homes. Watch the movie Blue Chips. Nick Nolte went to all the recruits' homes, and I mean, and the one kid he went to out in Indiana there had a farmhouse that kind of looked like a barn. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter what the house looks like. And then he went to the projects to go see that other one in Chicago, and so Both ways work. It's just how you spin it off.
George, your comments. And I'd like you to read what I'm going to put it up, what James Burgess is saying now.
Okay, James says, per Aiden, when U of M walked him out onto the field of the big house, they had an announcer call his name into the empty stadium, made up his mind to go to U of M right then. And I did not remember that specific incident, but Candy already stated the facts about Jim Harbaugh went to a lot of homes. So that could have been maybe, Mr. Burgess, that could have been maybe a second visit for Aiden. I don't know. I would find it hard to believe that Harbaugh would not go to his home, seeing his father was a great football player and a former Wolverine as well. But no, I'm more of a traditionalist, Candy, and I think it is important. And I don't, I know Jeremy made a good point about, what the house looks like and if they don't have, but I think that, coaches nowadays have to realize that everybody lives at a certain level. Everybody has certain comfort zone in their own home. I think it's important for the coach to go and visit. I mean, geez, we get The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. They go to visit the homes of their last 3 or 4 dates or whatever that show shows. So, I mean, they want to see mom and dad. They want to see the brothers or sisters. And I think the football coaches have a right to do that. Now, that being said, I've also been told that a lot of coaches don't like it anymore. It's too much wear and tear on them. I mean, Nick Saban left the business. Harbaugh left college coaching. I mean, I don't know if that had a lot to do with it, but that does take a toll on a head coach. No question about it. When you do the recruiting in all the different cities, around the U.S. So I can see it both ways, but I'm still old school. I'd rather have the coach come and visit.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jim Harbaugh knew a recruiting trick right there. Oh, I'm sure Jim made a Hutchinson house call. Jim liked doing those, and he was only a short car ride, and Dad was an alum anyway. One of the things I will say, and I can speak about this, is I have gone to, let's say, many Hurricane football games per se. And I can tell you there is a rule that as a photographer, I cannot, and I repeat, I cannot take pictures of any of the recruits that are there to see the game as they are being recruited. That is a rule. So I know they bring these guys to the different schools, and I think that's definitely important. Now, the one big difference between bringing somebody to the school and you going to their house is I think you get a lot more one-on-one time when they go to the house. Whereas when you're bringing them to the school, you could be bringing a whole class or a whole group of people. So that might play to your advantage because you might be bringing other people that are big names that they want to play with too. And if they know that you're recruiting them, I think it's interesting. I think it can go both ways. I do think it's important for the recruit to go to the school and see what the facilities are like, what the on-campus situation, if you're going to live on campus or if you're going to live off campus, what that's like, because I think that all plays into who you are as a student and who you are on the field. Because if you're not happy with your surroundings, it's going to come forth on the field as well. So I think that is very important. I think it's also important that when a coach goes to you, that's the head coach. And normally I can't speak for experience. I don't know if more of the coaches are there too, but if you're a quarterback, and is it just the head coach coming, or is the quarterback's coach, is the offensive, is it all of them? Because you're not always going to work just one-on-one with the head coach. Let's face it. You're going to have more of a relationship with some of the other coaches. And I think that's what's really important, because I think, yes, we all want to play for a big name. Oh, it's great to be playing for this person or this person. and this big school or whatnot. But I think part of it also is surrounding around you. But that's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree.
And I don't get paid millions of dollars, and I never did to go to college or anything. I mean, I went to college, but that's because I paid, not because somebody else paid me. So, any other thoughts, feedback, comments? No.
No, I'm good.
I
I'm
think
good.
it's time to go to my town. My favorite segment. Let's see. Let us start with Ralph tonight. You're on mute, Ralph.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I had some emergency vehicles going past my apartment here, so that's why I put it on mute. Anyway, we have the NCAA tournament here. I'm very pleased that Pittsburgh can host that. But what I'm not happy with is, and I said this to the mayor, and I happen to be friends with the mayor, that you need to clean the city up for this tournament. And they did nothing to clean it up. There is nothing for people to eat at, like a diner kind of setting. There's not even a McDonald's in downtown Pittsburgh anymore. So we have 3 diners in the Strip District, which isn't far from downtown. But if you're staying at one of the downtown hotels, you want to walk close by, and you're staying near the PPG Paints Arena, and you want to go somewhere and have breakfast in the morning, and you don't want to pay $40 for the buffet there or whatever they charge at some of these hotel restaurants, and you want to go somewhere to a diner, you literally have to take Uber or whatever. And I brought this up to the city's attention numerous times that you need to clean the city up. When they see tents and with homeless people in them and stuff, that's a disgrace. And there's already complaints being lodged by people staying in town for this tournament about the way our city looks. And I think it's a disgrace, and I think the mayor ought to be ashamed of himself. I think he ought to step down because I think that this is sad. We have the NFL draft coming in 2026, I believe. So we better really get our city cleaned up for that. And that's the way that is today. And then Rowdy Zealous or whatever his name is finally made his way back into the Pirate lineup. He played today, so had some hits against Toronto. And even though the Pirates lost 3-2, and the Penguins, well, we have an amusement park here called Kennywood. And they have a roller coaster there which says Penguins on it. That's the way the season has gone for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Steelers are about to make or already have some of the trade made for Terry McLavin there from Washington Redskins, wide receiver. We're going to give him a second, 5, and a 7th round pick. And we're getting Terry McLavin, and we're getting their 7th round pick. So Omar Khan, the Khan man, will be stacking up picks again while the draft goes on, even though we lost some. And that's my town.
Will, what's happening in your town?
So in my town, we held March Madness, the first round today. UNC beat number 16 Wagner. Number 9 Michigan State beat number 8 Mississippi State, and Texas beat Colorado State. And the night game is in Charlotte, Tennessee versus St. Peter's, and it will continue on Saturday. Also in Charlotte, it was announced, I think yesterday, that they will be hosting an international friendly for club soccer between 2 European powerhouses. I'm not going to say, like, they're well known. Chelsea FC versus Real Madrid FC, and those normally draw in a lot of fans. So to get 2 of the most famous clubs in soccer history, that's huge for the city of Charlotte. So yeah, love seeing that. And that's my
Okay, Mr. George.
Well, I know we've talked about this fella before on some other shows of ours, but my town is, again, Detroit. We are very concerned about a man who was getting millions and millions of dollars to play shortstop here, and you guys know who I mean. Former Chicago Cub, Javier Baez, barely hitting 100 during spring training in Lakeland where the Tigers train. And it's a situation where the Tigers are kind of handicapped because they don't have right now in their pipeline a kid ready. I mean, Creedler has got a possibility. There's also another couple other shortstop in the Tigers farm system, but Baez was supposedly going to report to camp with a new attitude and some new life to his bat, but I'm telling you, it doesn't look good right now. The Tigers lost today. They played pretty much their starting lineup. They lost to the Mets, but they've had a really good preseason, the Detroit Tigers down in Lakeland. But Baez is just like, oh my gosh. I mean, where can you go with this guy? He's fallen off drastically in the years since Detroit obtained him and since he was the MVP of the National League. He's a finalist, I mean, with the Cubs at one time. But he finished last season with a 267 OBP, which is the worst among all qualified hitters. So it's a situation where I don't know what's going on with this guy. He is just not doing justice to that huge contract the Tigers are giving him. But like I said earlier, it's a situation where they're going to try to still ride the Rapids with him and try to make sure that he realizes there are coaches that can help him, video coaches. I don't know what the situation is with getting him to major league level hitting, but it's just sad what's happened so far. And there's always hope. Maybe something will happen in the regular season to start him off with a better OPS. But he's really, really hit the skids since the Tigers signed him. So that's my story. Opening day is just around the corner. Tigers open up in Chicago against the White Sox, and then they got to go to New York to play the Mets. It's going to be a bit of a stretch for the Tigers to open up winning ways, but we'll see what happens. And hopefully Baez will be able to somehow get out of this funk.
So George, James is agreeing with you. You called it right, George. Javier is looking like a boat anchor from the Titanic.
Playing like a bum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Thanks, James.
Mr.
Not something.
Co-host, Smoking Jeremy B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your my town?
Cam Sutton. Yesterday morning, the news broke that a warrant was issued for his arrest back on March 7th, where he got into an argument with his girlfriend. He accused of attempted strangulation, and rumors are he threw her out the window of the apartment. Some people say, or of his house. Some people say it was a third story. Somebody said he only has a single story house. We don't know the details of it. Let's not speculate. All we know is that his vehicle was last seen speeding away from the scene on March 7th, and he hasn't been found since. And that does not bode well. What does bode well in the team organization sense, as soon as the authorities released the information, they went out there, they did their public statement, and they found the clause. They are able to void that 10.5 guaranteed contract. The only thing they're on the hook for is all the little bonuses that he won't get because he won't be at practice. He won't be showing up for roster day. He won't be doing any of that. So that's technically going to be $12.3 million they don't have to spend for somebody that doesn't deserve a dime, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you touch a woman out of anger like that, you're not a man. Your man card has been revoked.
Amen.
I agree.
Really sad.
Okay. The special number for tonight is 54. And you ask, why do I bring up that number? No school has played in more NC2A tournaments and bowl games than Wisconsin in the past 30 years. The
Wow.
number is 54 in bowl games and NC2A tournaments. Kudos to Wisconsin, because that's not normally the school that you would think that would be that many tournament in the tournament or that many bowl games, but kudos to them.
Yes.
Good luck to them in the tournament. Good luck to Marquette, and good luck to all the Florida schools. That 54, that is my number for tonight. So with that being said, thank you guys. I'm going to let everybody go around the room and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. Mr. Will, we're going to start with our special guest.
So I want to thank you guys for having me yet again. Thank you, Jeremy, for reaching out, Candy for reaching out. Always great being on the panel with you guys, also with Ralph, also with George. Love watching this YouTube channel every day. So you guys can find me on Wednesday nights on Smoking Jeremy B's show, where we talk about the NFL Roundtable, the most recent news, and we have been doing a lot of mock drafts recently because it is almost draft season and it is mock season. Thursdays, you can find me on the Sip Off hosted by Megan Price, and also on here occasionally whenever they need me. Fire Up. On Fridays, you can find me on Smoking Jeremy B's channel yet again with the Detroit Lions Fan Cave chat. And yeah, that's where you can find me. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm always open. So yeah, thanks again.
Ralph, how can people find you?
www.rwmedia.org. I'm also on Beaver County Radio every Tuesday, 4 to 6 p.m. This past Tuesday, check out my show on my YouTube channel or on Beaver County Radio's YouTube channel. I interviewed legendary sports broadcaster in Pittsburgh, Bill Hillgrove. He just stepped down from the Steeler job after 30 years, and he is the second longest tenured broadcaster and play-by-play guy in NCAA history. 51 years he's been with Pitt, and I interviewed him, and it was a great interview. Also tomorrow, Friday morning, and every Friday morning, 11 a.m., the External Bum Show. We talk about bums in sports and everything else. It's Scott Morganroth, Ralph Williams, myself, and the JD Toth from Draft 412. And Draft Nation and Leo Haggerty from Amped Up Sports. That's every Friday morning at 11 a.m., the External Bum Podcast. I have my own YouTube channel, Facebook page, LinkedIn, and I'm also on Twitter X as well. And I'm also on Tumblr, and you can see all my shows on my YouTube channel.
Okay, George, before I let you talk about it, I'm going to comment. James never saw a Badgers hoop game, but I got to say, going to an MSU road game at Camp Randall was an excellent experience. I honestly will tell you, James, I completely agree. I have been to the Big House. I've been to the Horseshoe. I've been to Minnesota. I've been to Illinois. Wisconsin football does it right. I want out of all the football games in football stadiums I've been to, I want to say it ranks, that would probably be number one. It just is a very good experience. I have been to Badger Hoops games. They're fun. Badger football games. I'll never forget the time I took Scott Morganroth to his first one, and he was covering it, and he was sitting up in the press box, and between the third and fourth quarter is the famous round. The whole stadium was rocking. He thought it was an earthquake. He was like, I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. So yes, Camp Randall's a great place to watch a game. I agree. Thank you, James. Okay, George, how can people get a hold of you? And I'm going to put a little something up in the corner because I want you to talk about that, of course.
Oh, well, thank you. You can find me at the South Florida Tribune, where I write under the Motor City Tribune with great writers like Jeremy and Scott and Jacob Christner and JB Ellis. And we have a whole group of writers. And obviously, the book that Candy is showing the picture of, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It's a good read for everybody that wants to learn about the history of Detroit sports broadcasting, guys that have been unbelievable in our state, including Ernie Harwell and Van Patrick and Bud Lynch and Bruce Martin, George Blaha, so many great announcers we've been blessed with here. there's a link at the end of my columns on the Motor City Tribune webpage. You'll find the link to find the book, or you could just look up yourself on Amazon. You can also reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com, on LinkedIn under my name, and also on Twitter at SanGSports99. And find me on any number of shows which I contribute to: 108 Stitches, Sports Exchange, and Pundit's Pundit, and this great Fire Up show. So thanks again for having me on, and look forward to hearing from more of our readers and listeners.
Okay.
Sorry, I gotta scratch my eye there because he brought up a couple of old Magic names. Thank you, James Burgess, Bruce Martin, and Sid Abel, Radio Magic. Yeah, they were great together, weren't they?
Yes, yes. Smoking Jeremy be my co-host.
Well, you can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, because I'm on Fire Up, Inside the Pigskin, and wherever else Scott may say, "Hey, Jeremy, I need a guy." I'm that guy. He calls me his chameleon or whatever because I blend in with everybody. That's because I'm a cut off of my own cloth. I don't think they make another cloth like me. I haven't seen it yet. But at the same time, you can also find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com underneath the Motor City Tribune heading. And yes, George Eichhorn is one of those writers with me, as well as Scott, J.B. Ellis, Jacob Krishner, and many others. You're going to see more. And also, almost every picture you see on there was probably taken by Candy.
A lot of them, yes. Mm-hmm.
He's also the reason why my stuff gets cleaned up. No, and I don't mean edited because of content. I mean edited because of grammatical and spelling errors. Some of them slip through the cracks, but that's what it is. But you can also find me on my channel, and I'm on actually 2 YouTube channels now. It's Football Talk 365, and also Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. I go live daily at 11 a.m. And then I also go live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Monday is Mock Draft Monday with just myself and my co-host. And then we got the NFL Roundtable Talks, as well mentioned, in the Lions Fan Cave chat. It is always a pleasure to talk sports with everybody here.
I would
Much
agree
love.
with that.
Likewise, Jeremy. Thank you.
Much love, Jeremy. Much love, everyone.
Okay, so if you underneath Will or right by Will, there's going to be a red subscribe button. If you see it, that means you haven't subscribed to us, and I don't know why you haven't yet, because you are missing out. Monday nights, if you like to talk about baseball, we have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. If you like football, Tuesday nights is Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights, normally around 9 o'clock, would be Sports Exchange, where Scott talks about any sport in between, from cornhole to football to you name it, to IMSA to NASCAR, you name it.
How about
Hockey.
pickleball?
I don't think he's done pickleball yet, but he's talked about cornhole stuff. So Jeremy says he did. So
I played it. No, I played it.
Oh, you've played it. Okay. Thursday nights is normally Pundit, and then Fire Up. And in between, some nights, you never know. You could see Motor City Madmouth, which is a one-on-one interview show that Scott does. We have Fire Up Wisconsin, Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Florida. We have Professor and Pupil. You just never know. There's all kinds of great shows. Come over to our YouTube channel and check us out. But we also ask you to support the people that are on this panel and their channels as well. Watch them, catch their shows too, because if you like them here, I'm sure you're going to like them on their channels as well. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Like Jeremy said, there's all kinds of writing. There's all kinds of pictures. If you have ideas, email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise, you can call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you like to listen to audio version, we are on all the podcast platforms. Go check us out, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever. Last but not least, There is a book out there, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Scott Morgenroth wrote it. It talks about his 40 plus years in the media business and how it's changed. And he's talked about who he's interviewed. If you want to see a picture of him as the young pup with Muhammad Ali, it's in there. So go grab the book. Amazon Kindle or Barnes and Noble. Go out and buy his book. But for right now, I want you all to enjoy March Madness, enjoy life, and I'm going to ask Mr. Jeremy to sign us off as he always does.
Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before, because that's the only way to make the world a better place. Starts right here, within. Much love, everybody. Thank you to everybody in the chat.
Terry, thank you very much for your comments. One of the best managers I've ever had. I appreciate that, Terry. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for enjoying and talking with me about March Madness and all the sports. Love talking sports with you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy March Madness. And we'll talk to you. See you next week.
All right. Have a great one. Thank
Nice.
you.
Peace out, everybody.